We are back again with another episode of my Ottawa Senators franchise mode series, and as has been the case throughout the majority of this season so far, we are currently in a state of flux, I would say. 26, 21, and 4 at the beginning of February, currently in a playoff spot, but there isn't an overwhelming sense of optimism like there was last season. Not really sure what the reason is for that. Of course, you look at the goaltending. Darcy Kemper's been solid when healthy. Prosvetov has been pretty good too. Of course, Gustafsson managed to drop the ball. And when you look at the forward core, Tkachuk has been solid, but Vlad Namestnikov, only 31 points in 51 games. Not quite where we want him to be. Lafreniere is underperforming to a ridiculous extent. Anthony Duclair, a little bit, he's just behind Lafreniere, but obviously Lafreniere has much higher expectations set upon him. There's just been that overwhelming feeling of something's not quite clicking with this team. And of course, the fourth line changed out completely. In the last episode, we traded away some players who we would have lost to waivers otherwise, but we had to call them up just to see, are you a fit for this team as it stands? And the unfortunate side effect of that is that some of those players might have been a fit a little bit down the road, because despite the fact we're in a playoff spot, the idea is being floated around of firing our head coach in Scoville. However, it's not the best option for us right now. Number one, hell of a coach to begin with in terms of grades, the great scheme fit, but if you think we're getting a better head coach on the open market, there's this veteran-based coach, but we have a very young team. There is this generalist at an A-. He's only a 61 fit, though. So, in terms of who's out there and who's better, the options really aren't there. And, of course, with the limitations that we have in this series in terms of I'm only allowed to sign someone, if they're signed on as a head coach, that's all I could do. I could promote Boyce, but then we'd have to try to replace him with someone else who's looking for that associate coach role. So there's really not too much that we can look to do here. This team, I think, as is going to be the case throughout this series, is once we lock a team in, they're locked in, right? And that's just kind of what we're rolling with. Obviously, we've been able to make some changes, but now in terms of like coaching staff and everything, I think we're pretty much locked into it. So the question becomes, not only, of course, the beginning of next month are we going to have an incident occur, but now the question is, does this team change a little bit more? And right now, I don't know the answer to that. There was a decent amount of support for getting rid of Gustafsson and for trading Anthony Duclair. There's a really good amount of support for getting rid of Vladislav Namestnikov and cashing out on that trade value, which, with the down season that he's having, it's not a bad decision. Although trading Namestnikov certainly puts us into a position where we are looking like sellers rather than buyers. And of course, Namestnikov in the playoffs last season was pretty solid. Especially the season before. Defensively, it's always been a bit iffy, but he's been able to put up points when we've made the playoffs. So it is a pretty tough call in terms of what we're going to do and when we're going to do it. Duclair, of course, has some trade value if we choose to move on from him. And of course, one of the big players that people have said, hey, give a chance to this guy is Shane Pinto. And if we look to make moves, then yeah, Shane Pinto gets the call up, and we're going to see what he can do at the NHL level. So for the moment, we're going to see what this team can do. Even Lyubushkin as a depth defenseman, that is what it is. We're going to see what this team can do. And whether or not we have the confidence in them come deadline day, we'll find out. I don't know if we're going to have the confidence in this team, and if we don't, then we're pulling the trigger and making changes, as Dustin Brown is on waivers. And I have to be honest, claiming Dustin Brown is a very smart move for us right now. That extra $2 million could be pretty helpful, especially since the cap that we're at right now was decently far down. So we are actually going to claim Dustin Brown. We were down towards the floor, and we're now back up to $73 million. So you want to talk about, hey, if a trade's made, do we look to call somebody up? Yeah, Dustin Brown could end up being on this team. So we will claim him solely to get a little bit of cap back into the team in case we decide to make a trade. Now, we did beat the Red Wings 4-1 on that day, which is pretty promising. Prosvetov getting his 6th win of the season. Let's see what Darcy Kuemper is able to do against the struggling Boston Bruins. It's a shootout loss. The pity point, though, helps quite a bit. As we see a blockbuster, Darnell Nurse and a 3rd-round pick to the Habs for Philip Deneau, Brendan Gallagher, and a 5th. Islanders win that trade. Darnell Nurse ended up in the old New York area, and it didn't really stay there for too long. So that is a huge trade amongst 2 Eastern Conference teams. Jordy Bellerive is now healthy, as is Cedric Paquette. So busy schedule ahead, and obviously we don't want to miss out on too many trading opportunities that could be out there. So we really do need the answer, as Alexis Lafreniere is going to be out until May with concussion issues. I mean, he was having a garbage season, but oh my God, we beat Vancouver, but we have lost Lafreniere until the 2nd or 3rd round of the playoffs. Jesus, the hits just keep on coming. I mean, we've had the injury sliders set to what they've been set to for the majority of this series. And, of course, it's never been as big of an issue as it is right now. Vitaly Abramov is going to get an opportunity, I think, on that top line. Or it's going to be Taylor Hall. It's going to be Taylor Hall back to the top line. And then Duclair. Not that we have a prototypical power forward on that line. It could be Norris. Let's see what we want to do here. I think we're going to change up the dynamic of that second line. Abramov is a better fit for the top line than the second line, but Hall's better there. You could make the argument for bumping up Formenton or somebody else yet again. It could be Formenton who gets that bump up to help out that line chemistry, but how has Formenton done exactly? 27 points. I mean, the game plan always was this season to have Formenton on the second line. Interesting. That really does force our hand on what's going to happen now. Okay, I think I know what I'm going to do here, and it's going to be a decent amount of change. But we'll get Abramov onto that 3rd line with Brown and White. I'm not going to worry too much about chemistry, but we're going to go Duclair, Norris, and Formenton. So Abramov in on the 3rd line after a devastating injury to Alexis Lafreniere. So we talked about it. Abramov might get his chance if there's an injury. Well, lo and behold, there is an injury. So huge chance for Abramov leading towards deadline day to prove that he can make an impact on this team. Otherwise, again, we're going to be drifting towards selling at the deadline. As we play at Minnesota here, a win for Prosvetov will get him the start against Chicago. Back-to-back shootout losses. The pity points, though, helping right now. You can't understate how important those extra Bettman points are. So we'll see what happens here. Kuemper back between the pipes. Chicago coming up next. We're now 3rd in the division. I'm presuming that's Riley Smith and a 3rd to Colorado for a 1st, a 2nd, and defensive prospect Clay Hanus. Interesting. We have a home-and-home against Carolina coming up. The Bruins have fired their head coach, and Darcy Kuemper has a concussion. Jesus, the injury bug this season. It's just a slight concussion scare, if there is such a thing. But that is an incredibly detrimental injury to this team. So Ivan Prosvetov will be in. He will get the start against the Bruins, and we'll see if we can hold off on needing to use Gustafsson if we can. As Ryan Murray and Troy Stetcher, so Montreal buys and then sells, or actually now it's the second time Montreal sold. They sell Ryan Murray and Troy Stetcher to Florida for 2 picks and a prospect. So Montreal, despite being in a playoff spot, they're going into full fire sale mode. Interesting. Carolina's next. Pretty good team. Let's see what happens. Can we make it 3 in a row? Huge chance here for Prosvetov, who gets hurt with a hamstring injury. So Kemper's back. He will immediately replace Prosvetov. Man, these injuries. Like, the injury slider's up there, but god damn. All right, well, the good thing is Darcy's right back in as the starter. And we'll see what he can do against Carolina on the second half of this home and home. And it is back-to-back losses, outscored 7-1 against Carolina. How far away from the deadline are we at this point in time? Peyton Krebs and Chandler Stevenson to the New York Rangers for 2 first-round picks and Matthew Robertson. Gigantic deal there for the Rangers. I mean, Vegas, that is one hell of a return for Peyton Krebs and Chandler Stevenson. As the deadline is going to be on March 1st, the same day where we figure out what kind of controversy is going to go down. That is deadline day. March 1st is going to decide a lot of things for this team. Vitaly Abramov, not cutting the mustard. 3 points in 9 games is okay, but defensively it's a bit shaky. He gets a little bit more time, but not much. We play Minnesota here at home. Win that one 2-1. We have 2 more games here before deadline day. As holy crap. Nick Leddy in a third to Anaheim in exchange for Igor Shesterkin and a prospect named Flood, so the Sharks have a goaltender. Terrell Stock picks up a minor knee injury in Belleville. Winnipeg here. Prosvetov will be back from injury. We lose to the Jets. And now we play a red-hot Coyotes team. Let's see what we can do here. The Minnesota Wild fire their head coach. And we lose to the Coyotes. So on 70 points, heading into deadline day. There we have it. 3rd place in the division. Very much undecided how this is going to go in terms of, whether or not we're going to make the playoffs. It is incredibly close. That said, we need to figure out just what type of controversy we are going to be facing here. Let's spin the wheel. Who's it going to be? It's going to be an NHL player again. Oh my god. We are going to lose an NHL player for the 2nd time this season. We got so lucky before. Lafreniere will not count because I can't officially trade him. But we will start things off. And I know people have been like, oh, do it a different way. We have Ivan Prosvetov, who is up for grabs here. Darcy Kemper. We are going to add Gustafsson, who I am tempted to trade anyway. That's my one kind of free spot there. That's where we hope it lands. We have Brady Tkachuk. We have Nemesnikov, who might be traded anyway. Taylor Hall, Duclair, Josh Norris, Formanton, White, Brown, Abramov, Batherson, also known as Atherson now, Naslund with a capital A, and Pilar. One of these players is going to be traded no matter what from the Ottawa Senators on deadline day, and it's going to be Anthony Duclair. So just like that, Anthony Duclair is off of this team, even if I wanted to keep him. Reason being, we'll go with this controversy, that being that Melnyk loves the top player on the Baby Sens and insists that he be brought up immediately. That's probably going to be Shane Pinto. Melnyk loves him some Shane Pinto. Anthony Duclair is going to be on the way out. Just like that. So we were going to look at his stats and debate whether or not trading him was the right way to go. As it turns out, it's the right way to go because I have no choice. Defensively, very strong this season. 32 points in 63 games is pretty solid. I mean, it's a decent pace with 19 games to go on the year. 40 points. We brought him in initially as a third liner, so he's done okay. But playing on the second line, he never really took that further step up. This is going to piss off some players too. Anthony Duclair is going to be shopped, and there's nothing we can do about it. We can get a first-round pick from the Bruins if we take John Moore and a third, so yeah, that's a decent little deal for us there. Take back some cap with John Moore. Dominic Cahoon and a third. No thanks. Victor Olofsson, a third and a fourth. I like that first-round pick from Boston because they fired their head coach this year. I know it's a pick for next year, but they might be bad again next year. Kyle Okposo, no thank you. Tyler Toffoli, 1 for 1. Bjorkstrand, a third and a fourth. Josh Manson's ridiculous deal. I do love me some Nick Hague, but I don't love that at $4 million. Max Pacioretty, Brian Rust, Dmitry Orlov, Michael Kempny, Brendan Dillon. Obviously, we are going to take the Bruins deal. Let me know what you think. Just thought of this on the fly. When it comes to being forced to trade a player from the controversy wheel, should I randomize what offer I accept? You know, I really like that idea because then it makes it more of a punishment. Me just being able to be like, fuck yeah, first round pick for Duclair. Obviously, it's supposed to be more of a punishment. I cannot believe I am about to do this to myself. But I am about to do this to myself. We are going to spin the wheel to see what trade we accept. 1 through 13. For the love of God, let it land on a 1. I am begging you. Whatever this lands on, I am taking the deal. We're doing it. What's it gonna land on? Please land on a 1. It lands on a 5. What was 5? Straight up for Tyler Toffoli. So I either take the deal for Toffoli, or I take the much more preferable first, third, and John Moore. Oh, God. There's the deal that I obviously want to make, and then there's the deal that does kind of side on this being more of a punishment. Son of a bitch. They're both good ideas. Tell you what, let me know what you think of the deal. I'm taking the picks from the Bruins. But let me know what you think for future reference. Should we take the Toffoli deal in that instance from the wheel spin, or do we take the deal from the Bruins? We have absolutely no use for Tyler Toffoli other than it's just a 1-for-1 deal where Toffoli would be on the team instead. Honestly, I'd probably immediately shop Tyler Toffoli. There is nothing that says I can't immediately shop Tyler Toffoli. I'm taking this deal. As punishment, we send Anthony Duclair at random to the Minnesota Wild for Tyler Toffoli. Do I like that? I don't know, but for this episode, I kind of do. And I think we are immediately going to shop Toffoli because I have no use for him whatsoever. We'll consider it a three-team trade. He has been abysmal defensively this season. Fits in great on our second line, but I have no desire to keep Tyler Toffoli. Is there anybody that I can shop him to? Anybody at all? So a first, third, and Jordy Ben. Then again, is it cheap for me to just immediately flip him like this? But a first, third, and Jordy Ben's pretty nice. It's basically the John Moore deal. How the hell did Nick Ritchie end up making $4 million? Caden Goulet, Kalachnik. Oh, God. The Bruins really want to give me that first round pick. I'm going to keep Tyler Toffoli for the season. I'm doing it. We are keeping Tyler Toffoli for the season. Let me know what you think of this idea. I hate this because that means we just missed out on a lot of trade value. But in a way, it kind of makes sense. In terms of what we're doing for the rest of deadline day, it is fairly obvious to me that we should shop Gustafsson and just get what we can for him and cut our losses. We can't send him back down to the minors without putting him through waivers. Now is the time to shop Philip Gustafsson. It's a third and a fifth, a fourth, and Michael Stone, actually. I wish it was Mark Stone. The second I said Mark Stone, I'm like, that's not right. It's former Yotes defenseman. Michael Stone. You have Bryson, Calgary Flame as well. So a third and a fifth, Bryson, and a seventh. A third, fifth, and Ryan Lowen. Cody Eakin, a sixth and a seventh, a third and a fifth there from Winnipeg. So the question is, how good is Jacob Bryson? And is he worth it over a third-round pick? Final year of his deal. He's a 79 at 25 years old. But he fits in incredibly well on this team. Interesting. Not that I plan on moving a defenseman, though. I think that's the issue. I have no desire to move defense or to move any of our defensemen off the roster right now. Otherwise, that would work. So we are going to take draft picks for Philip Gustafsson. I'm not really worried about missing out on too much value. Let's send him... We'll send him to Arizona because they lost Prosvetov. So, Gus, thank you, but you sucked. Get the hell off my team. It's another big morale danger there. So, Kemper, Prosvetov for the 1-2 punch. Wallstead will be here next year. Of course, we have Sjogard, Shaw, and Bednar. Defensively, it is Brandstrom, Chabot, Bernard Docker, and Borowiecki who can't stay healthy. Thompson and Lajoie. Of course, Zaitsev. Look at Nikita Zaitsev's value. I don't know how he's retaining that much value, but the good thing is he takes up salary cap for us. I can't really afford to get rid of him. And then from here, I want to see if I can shop Ilya Lyabushkin. Otherwise, we're just going to send him down. Yeah, of course, he has been terrible this season when given the opportunity. Maybe not terrible, but very, very ineffective is the proper word. For other wingers, Lafreniere is out. Hall, Toffoli goes nowhere. Vitaly Abramov, 4 points in 12 games and a -3. That is a point pace. What is that a point pace of? 20 points, right? I do believe that it, yeah, it's, well, 27 points actually, so. It's not that bad. I don't know if he deserves a spot on this team for the rest of the season, though, off of that. And let's see here for the left wings. Formanton. Still too young to get rid of, and he's actually been okay. So then we get the centers. And the big question, of course, is Vladislav Nemesnikov. I really like Colin White as well, but he doesn't fit in with this coach all that well. Nemesnikov is a perfect second-line center. Has 40 points in 63 games. I mean, that point total to that value, that doesn't equal out. Are there offers? There are offers for Nemesnikov. Kirill Kaprizov. Kaprizov, call him what you will. I've heard both. But Kirill Kaprizov and Murphy, Matt Dumba, and Anthony Duclair. Ristolainen Duclair, Roman Josi, Ryan Ellis, or Tyson Barrie. It's tough to turn down Kirill Kaprizov. It is very tough to turn down Mr. Kaprizov, who they want to get rid of. He has 26 goals this season. Fits in on our second line. Very, very interesting. We need to take a look at the team really quickly, but at least we know that there is a market for Kaprizov. And if we take a look at Colin White as well, there are going to be offers for him. Dumba Edler, Kaprizov, Suter, Schmidt, Pacioretty, Spurgeon, and Pacioretty. Interesting. Not that we need help on the defensive side of things. So if we get a look at the roster right now after those two moves, goaltending-wise, we're set. Prosvetov won the backup job. Defensively, we know that we need to send down Lyabushkin, but let's take a look here. Lajoie, solid. He stays. Thompson's fine. Borowiecki's fine when he plays. There isn't a regular defenseman that I'm complaining about. We just need a better, more reliable depth defenseman, which could very well be Nikita Zaitsev, but again, he doesn't fit on the NHL team in terms of chemistry. That's the issue. Johnny Tykonik could be the guy to call up whenever there's an injury on the defensive side of things. Otherwise, again, we're looking at like Phillips, Gleason, Dineen. We need to find a good depth defenseman. But let's put Lyabushkin through waivers when we can. We're pretty low to the floor right now. And then forward-wise, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12 with Pilar. Are we happy with the forward core? I mean, we basically just swapped Duclair for Toffoli. Let's reunite what the lines would have been. Again, Abramov hasn't been that bad. Pilar's been okay. Naslin's been okay. Batherson's been pretty damn strong. How does Batherson fit in on other lines? He fits in best on the third line. Abramov's been okay, but he hasn't made the most of being, on the third line. He hasn't made the most of that opportunity. Josh Norris has been pretty damn strong this season. Logan Brown's been okay. White's, at least in terms of the plus-minus, looking all right. Again, Tyler Toffoli has been miserable this season. And Nemesnikov, we know, is best on the second line. The thing about Nemesnikov is we could trade him this offseason, but then the argument becomes, did we wait too long? Which could very well be the case. I can't believe Logan Brown doesn't fit in well on that third line. I wonder if we drop Logan Brown to the fourth line. At that point, we're just not getting the most out of him. So I guess you can make the argument of drop Abramov, but he doesn't fit in as well on the fourth line either. If we add Kirill Kaprizov to this team, Formanton can't really play center. Norris can play center, so he'd replace Nemesnikov. So in the future, it would look like we have Tkachuk, White, Hall, Formanton, Norris, and Kaprizov until further notice. Is that the way we want to go? The problem is, how expensive is Kaprizov going to be heading into next season? But there's no doubt Nemesnikov has been a gigantic disappointment this season. Again, last year, the 91 points, and now he's on a lesser pace than when he had 59 points, right? Right now, he is on a 52-point pace. We have to cash out on him. We absolutely have to cash out on him. There's no choice. Let's see who's available around the league. But yeah, Nemesnikov has to go. He's just not doing good enough. And it would be a very misguided decision to not take advantage of that trade value. So in terms of who's out there, Perreault from Anaheim simply not going to be enough. David Pastrnak is available. He's in a contract year, but Jesus Marian Hossa, David Pastrnak is available. He doesn't fit in our top line, but we don't know if we're keeping the coach. Nick Ritchie, by the way, a big boost from the morale system because he's only a third liner. They have Connor Zary as well. David Pasternak's available. That's a move we're going to have to consider. I planned on getting through the rest of the regular season in this episode today, but we keep... Matthew Tkachuk is available. Do we unite the Tkachuks? Oh my God. Pasternak's available. Matthew Tkachuk is available. We could have Matthew and Brady on the same team. Tkachuk's expensive as shit, but it could be done. That's something we'd really have to think about, having both Tkachuks on this team. But Pastrnak and Tkachuk are both available. That is absolutely insane. Detroit's moving Dylan Larkin, whose value is down right now because of a morale crisis. Use Nemesnikov to get Pastrnak or Tkachuk, and then bring in Dylan Larkin to be our new second-line center. We could make major, major moves here. The Florida Panthers are Goulet and Kalachnikov are actually, those are decent prospect options. And then Minnesota, as mentioned, moving Kirill Kaprizov right now. How expensive of a deal is he going to want at the end of this? Is he going to be an RFA, as he should? And then Dumba and Ristolainen are both there, but again, I don't have any interest in acquiring a major defenseman right now. Montreal's not shopping anybody at this point. Nashville trying to move on from Yossi and Ellis. Jeremy Davies developed for them. New Jersey, nobody major. The New York Rangers, nobody major. Philly shopping Ghost Bear, Giroux, JVR. Pittsburgh, nobody. San Jose, nobody. St. Louis, nobody. Tampa's shopping Braden Point. Good God. You want to talk about a top-line center? He's been horrible this year. Fits in the top 6. I mean, he's incredibly expensive, but I mean, Point or Larkin. I mean, you see some of the top names that are available here, and it gets the wheels spinning in your head about what could be done. As the Vegas Golden Knights looking to get rid of their defense core, essentially. Washington trying to move on from some of their role players. Wow. The things that could be done in this offseason. Or in this offseason, on this deadline, but how it affects the offseason is the question. Whose contract is up at the end of the year? Prosvetov, his is up. He's not going to be looking for that much money. Defensively, we're going to have to try to re-sign Borowiecki. Right now, though, he doesn't want to come back. Max Lajoie doesn't want to come back, but he's an RFA. He has no choice. For the wingers, Lafreniere is going to need a deal. It's going to be expensive. Toffoli will be dropped immediately. Abramov's an RFA. Formanton and Batherson are RFAs. We have money to spend and a very valuable asset to move. Of course, there's no limit on trading. I don't have to use the trade finder to move Nemesnikov. We have about $3 million on the dot in cap space right now. But if we get creative, there are some major players at stake here. Not to mention, I mean, I wouldn't say Shaw is the type of goalie who's never going to make it. We can fairly trade Ashton Shaw, which also boosts up the value. There could be some moves. I don't know how Nikita Zaitsev has that trade value. I really don't. I don't think it's fair to trade him for that at all. You know, like I said, I wanted to get through this episode and finally finish up this season. But the twists and turns continue. You've seen what we've debated here. You have seen who is available on the market right now. I want to hear from you. What are the Senators going to look like? And what is the game plan? Do we make the playoffs at this point? A lot of questions that remain to be answered for the Ottawa Senators. That trend just doesn't seem to want to go away.